Hello, welcome back to another episode of Diatonic Dissection, where we crack open music to see what makes it tick. In this video, we'll be starting our odyssey into the Hades 2 soundtrack, composed by the wonderful Darren Core. I made a start of sorts with this channel way back when, doing these kinds of analysis videos on the first Hades soundtrack. These videos were very successful, and sadly, I didn't make the most of it for various reasons, namely mental health, but let's not open that particular box. I hope to return to these videos at some point with my improved setup and editing skills, but for the moment we are looking at Hades 2. If you want the sheet music for this video, as well as all my other ones for free, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/diatonicdissection. There's a link down below to save you trying to spell it. Let's get started. The tempo is 85 BPM and the key is C minor. We have something in this track that we haven't really seen before in these videos, which is a new time signature. The time signature for this track is primarily 7/8. Just to get you up to speed, most music that you know is in a time signature known as 4/4, and that can be written as 8/8 notes. For 7/8, it has 7/8 notes, as you can see from the numbers. It has a certain type of feel to it. The best example of it that I can think of is in the song Natural Science by Rush. Here's a diagram to kind of illustrate the point, but you'll see what I mean when we get into it. I finally had to bite the bullet and learn about synths properly for this soundtrack. In previous videos, I thought that the synth part was played using a theremin because of the weird slidey sound, but I have since learned that this is a monophonic synth with a portamento setting. This setting allows for the sliding between two notes played in sequence, hence the sliding nature of the sound. The main melody is mostly held notes for a bar at a time, so it will force you to get to grips with the 7/8 feel. The track opens with a held C power chord for the first two bars on guitar. It then does nothing until bar 16, where it starts playing a 16th note pattern that will appear in other parts like the bass, so I'll just include a cut in the clip to save time. The acoustic guitar is playing a variation on the main theme of Hades. Again, if you're used to the original theme in 4, this new version may take a bit of getting used to with the 7/8. There is also a synth sound that I have paired with the acoustic guitar to try and recreate the original sound. bass part is playing something similar to the 16th note pattern that we see in the guitar part. It starts out playing a small part of it and then it fills out. The drums have an electronic sound in this track, and it starts out with a tambourine emphasizing beats 1 and 5. The hi-hat appears in bar 5 playing half open, and then it switches to 16th notes in bar 14 until the end of the section. Here is Section A altogether. Section B switches from 7/8 to 4/4, so thankfully this main melody is a bit easier with the help notes. The main melody is simple and I have nothing to say about it apart from the B natural at the end to watch out for. As we're in the minor key is considered official music theory practice to sharpen the 7th to lead back to the root. Section B feels a bit like a chorus as it starts on an A flat power chord instead of the C. This change is known as a relative chord. The chords, C minor and A flat, both share 2 notes, so they feel connected even though they are different chords. Not much else to say, but there is still that B natural at the end to watch out for. There are a couple of acoustic instruments buried inside the mix for sections B and D. I managed to roughly figure out what these parts are using EQ on another track, The Crossroads, which is essentially an acoustic version of Death to CHRONOS. They're very simple, but they provide a nice connection back to the original soundtrack, which was far more acoustic. I'm pretty sure that these aren't the instruments in question, but for my version they are acoustic guitar and mandolin. The mandolin sound is from a guitar synth, and the acoustic guitar is from the piezo pickup on the guitar I'm using for this series. There is a new instrument added for section B, and that is another synth that provides an arpeggiated backing that is playing along with the bass. The arpeggios used are A flat, C minor, G minor, and G. These arpeggios have a very specific sound because they start with a leap of either an octave or a fifth. The part finishes a beat early, so be careful of that. Obviously not a problem if you're reading the sheet music, but obviously some of you will want to do it by ear, so knock yourself out. In The Crossroads there is a more sensible bass part, but I can't hear it in this track, so I just transcribed it along with the synth. As I said earlier in the section, the time signature goes back to 4/4, but the drums move to an offbeat hi-hat. Be careful of the final bar where everything ends a beat early. Here is section B altogether. I'm not sure where the idea came from, but it came to me while I was staring off into space waiting for something. The held chords and long held notes of the main melody made me think of shoegaze/post-rock. The most recent example being the song Void in Blue by Glare, which has been doing the rounds on TikTok. So here we go. For section C, we are essentially returning back to section A, so the synth part is doing more held notes, but thankfully it doesn't start until the 5th bar, so you have plenty of time to get back into the 7/8 feel. way back when the soundtrack first came out, I did a cover of CHRONOS, but it was before I learned about the synths properly, so I tried to do the main melody with a guitar and an Ebow, which is a fun little bit of kit that makes guitar strings vibrate like they are being played with a violin bow, hence the name. If you're curious, it sounds like this. Both guitar parts, the bass and the drums are all doing their Section A parts again, so I have nothing to Here is Section C altogether. For Section D, we are back to the chorus feel of Section B. The time is back to 4/4, and all of the instruments are pretty much doing the same thing that they were before. So here are all of those chords. Just a quick note for the bass and synth part, don't relax quite yet, because Section E brings even more suffering. drums are doing the same thing for section D as they were in section B, so keep it steady. Here is all of section D together. Section E is something new. It's an expansion upon the chorus sound, so we're staying in 4/4, and the instruments are generally doing something similar. The synth part is pretty simple, so nothing to add. The distorted guitar is doing something similar with the held chords, but they are inverted. Instead of playing a G5 chord with frets 3, 5 and 5, you're playing an inverted C5 chord using frets 3, 3 and 5. Here is a video clip illustrating the difference in sound, and then the actual clip. The acoustic guitar gets to do something different, as it is initially playing just some held quarter notes, but then it moves into a pedal thing. Bass and synth parts are doing something similar to what they were doing in sections B and D, but now it is far more complicated. There are note groupings of 3 that cross bar lines, as well as other rhythmically complicated things like switching from 3 note groups to 4 note groups and ending with an A flat diminished arpeggio. You'll see what I mean in the clip. The drums for section E are probably the simplest that they're ever going to be. Just 8 notes on the hi-hat and no offbeat snare stuff. Here is section E all together. While practicing the bass part, I realised that if you do it faster, it sounds more like regular video game / rock music. So let's do that. And in case you're wondering, yes, that is a sock wrapped around the fret, as I couldn't find my regular fret wrap. Our final section, section F, is the extremely quiet outro for the track. There's no synth, and the acoustic guitar is leading in terms of the main melody. The bass and drums are back to doing what they did in sections A and C. Here is section F altogether. And that's it. 3.5-ish minutes of music stretched into goodness knows however many minutes of analysis. If you want the sheet music for this video as well as all my others for free, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Diatonic Dissection. There's a link down below to save you trying to spell it out. This video was much longer than the other ones that I have done previously for Sonic, etc. So, if you are still here watching, thank you very, very much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.